There is a unique, quiet devastation that occurs when an intimate world collapses after you cross the threshold of 40. When a long-term marriage ends, or a profound relationship shatters at this stage of life, it doesn't just feel like a heartbreak. It feels like an architectural failure. You look at the rubble of the life you spent 2 decades meticulously engineering, the shared finances, the deep-rooted habits, the social circles, the identity you built as a partner, and suddenly, you are standing in the freezing cold, completely stripped of your compass. In your 20s, heartbreak is a chaotic rite of passage. You have the fluid time to rebuild, to date casually, and to easily rewrite your narrative. But through the lens of human behavior psychology, heartbreak after 40 triggers a completely different evolutionary alarm system. Your brain interprets the loss not just as an emotional wound, but as an existential threat to your survival, your legacy, and your remaining time. Most people trapped in this darkness fall into the victim loop. They replay the memories, dissect the betrayals, and succumb to the toxic belief that their romantic and personal prime is permanently behind them. But behavioral science reveals a radically different truth. The collapse of a relationship in your mature years is a brutal, yet necessary evolutionary catalyst. It is the moment the matrix of codependency is shattered so that your true, independent sovereignty can finally be forged. In this video, we will dissect the cold, hard human behavior psychology of post-40 heartbreak. We will examine the neurological traps keeping you stuck in the past. And we will reveal the exact psychological shifts required to turn a devastating divorce or rejection into the ultimate rebirth of your personal power. Welcome back to the laboratory of the mind, the neurological trap of the sunk cost. To understand why the pain of a breakup feels so catastrophic after 40, we must look at a fundamental principle of human behavior psychology known as the sunk cost fallacy. The human brain is an efficiency machine that hates losing investments. When you have poured 15, 20, or 25 years of your prime energy, patience, and youth into a single person, your neural pathways become deeply hardwired around that dynamic. When that relationship ends, your brain experiences a violent cognitive dissonance. It screams, "We spent too much time here to let it fail." If this is gone, our entire past is invalidated. This psychological trap manifests as an obsession with the question, why? Why did they change? Why did the marriage fail? Why did I waste my best years? But the mature success mindset requires you to look at this data with cold, analytical objectivity. The years you spent were not wasted. They were the raw data collection phase of your life. You paid a high price for deep experiential knowledge, emotional vocabulary, and a profound understanding of human nature. The mistake the mature mind makes is trying to repair a house that has already burned to the ground because they like the memories of the old foundation. Behavioral psychology dictates that the faster you accept the sunk cost as a closed ledger, the faster your brain can redirect its massive crystallized intelligence toward building your next empire. The past is a static data point. Your response to it today is the only dynamic variable you control. The internal locus of liberation. In the aftermath of a divorce or a severe romantic rejection, human behavior often defaults to an external locus of control. Your emotional weather becomes completely dictated by the actions, the coldness, or the new life of your ex-partner. You become a psychological hostage to someone who is no longer in your room. The ancient Stoics, long before the birth of modern human behavior psychology, understood that this is the absolute definition of self-inflicted slavery. Epictetus famously taught that any person capable of angering or destroying you becomes your master. When you spend your nights checking their social media, analyzing their silence, or begging for closure, you are actively giving away the most valuable asset you have left: your focus. True personal growth after 40 begins with the radical retrieval of your attention. You must fire your ex-partner from the position of your emotional dictator. In behavioral terms, this means transitioning to an internal locus of control. You stop waiting for an apology that will never come. You stop demanding closure from the person who broke you. You realize that closure is not something you receive from an external source. It is a boundary you enforce within your own mind. When you cut the invisible cords of resentment, you instantly reclaim massive amounts of cognitive bandwidth. You stop performing for a relationship that is dead, and you start investing entirely in the sovereign kingdom of your own future. The strategy of brutal subtraction. In the wake of an emotional collapse, well-meaning people will tell you to get back out there, to distract yourself, or to quickly add new things to your life to fill the void. They encourage you to jump into rebound relationships, overschedule your calendar, or drown the silence in noise. But advanced human behavior psychology suggests the exact opposite strategy for the mature mind, the strategy of brutal subtraction. When a long-term bond breaks, your internal ecosystem is highly volatile. Adding more clutter, more casual validation, or more emotional noise only masks the infection. It doesn't cure it. The post-40 rebirth requires you to lean heavily into the silence. It requires you to audit your life with a surgical knife. Use this period of isolation as an elite filtration system. Subtract the superficial friends who only want to gossip about your divorce. Subtract the old habits that you only kept to keep your partner happy. Subtract the old goals that belong to a version of you that no longer exists. By shrinking your circle and minimizing your external commitments, you create a hyper-concentrated beam of light on your core pillars, your deep physical health, your financial sovereignty, your peace of mind, and your legacy. Youth was about proving you could maintain a crowded house of relationships. Maturity is about having the absolute courage to keep your temple empty until only what is deep, genuine, and unshakable is allowed to enter. If you are standing amidst the ruins of a relationship over the age of 40, understand this. The world will try to tell you that your story is written, because society profits off the fear of being alone. But the absolute laws of human behavior psychology state that you have never been more dangerous, more capable, or more liberated than you are right now. You can no longer be fooled by cheap romantic illusions. Your nervous system has survived the ultimate betrayal and the deepest grief, and yet you are still breathing. You possess a lethal combination of raw life experience, strategic patience, and an absolute refusal to ever let another human being control your internal weather again. This is your quiet rebellion. The collapse was not your burial, it was your excavation. The ground has been cleared. The fortress is ready to be built on your own terms. If this deep dive into human behavior psychology spoke to your healing and your power today, leave a comment below with the declaration, "My sovereignty is non-negotiable." Subscribe to the Stoic Mindset Lab for your ongoing mental conditioning. Protect your focus, elevate your depth, and stay stoic.